Apart from complete loss of privacy, well, I guess the right thing to say is enriched lives, easier lives, less mundane things for us to do, so on and so forth. But yeah, I think the reality might be quite different as we start to think about some of the security implications. But invariably, I think it's going to make our lives easier if we think about the consumer aspect. For the enterprise, efficiencies, competitiveness, and ultimately, of course, that's going to benefit the consumer because that's going to drive, price decreases hopefully in a lot of the products we buy, from organisations large and small. So I guess if there's one thing all the analysts agree on, it's going to be overcoming the security concerns that exist around the adoption of IoT. That's a pretty substantial challenge, and I think forms, I guess, the largest chunk of effort that's still required by enterprises, but also I think by the security industry itself, in terms of making it a lot easier for those organisations to build security into their products from day one. Surprise, surprise, we're a security company for IoT, so we're, I think, probably one of the few pure play IoT security businesses, and we're really looking at trying to address some of the challenges in IoT that exist with what we see today as the over-dependency on really two things. Transport-based security for securing the data that's moving within IoT ecosystems, but also the use of static certificates in order to provide the infrastructure to support and scale that. So transport level security, apart from actually being proven to be vulnerable to attack, if we look at the more fundamental problem of IoT ecosystems and the typical journey of a piece of data across an IoT ecosystem, it doesn't go from A to B, it goes from A to B to C to D to E, and guess what, there's lots of off-ramps into untrusted networks. You cannot persist transport security across that in an end-to-end fashion. So what we're really trying to do as a company is help organisations take a more robust approach to that problem by actually encrypting the data itself and not the transport mechanism, so we can persist that end-to-end, but also securely authenticate all of the devices within that ecosystem without the use of certificates, because PKI technology that we've relied on for the last 20 years in the enterprise doesn't scale. I'm 23 years in the information security industry. I've tried to do it. Enterprise organisations that are considered large scale are 20,000, 30,000 devices. That's tiny in IoT. You start to talk about 1 million, 10 million devices. If we can't make PKI work in traditional enterprise, we sure as hell are not going to be able to make it work within IoT. That's what we're fixing. Efficiency and profit, actually. I think, looking at it from an enterprise perspective, I think those are pretty fundamental. Otherwise, there's not really that much of a driver to do it. So I think that's pretty core. I think if you look at it from a consumer perspective, which is obviously another significant market in terms of IoT, it's about convenience. It's about improved quality of life. It's about, as I said right at the beginning, I think not having to do all of the mundane things that you typically have to do or think about. And we're all going to be fitter as a result, and not have to worry about monitoring all the things that we have to typically monitor in a manual fashion.